How's it going, everybody? Welcome to the Sports Nation podcast with your host, Alec Pecano. On today's show, we are going to go over and recap free agency for the AFC. We're going to preview the Rays' upcoming weekend series with the Rockies, and we're also going to preview the University of South Florida baseball 3-game weekend series versus Tulane and North Florida's 3-game set versus Florida Gulf Coast. And why don't we get started with previewing the upcoming 3-game weekend series and also we're going to preview the Rays and Reds schedules going forward. But we are going to start with previewing. Give me a second. Previewing the for University of North Florida first, and their 3-game set. So they're coming off a loss to Georgia Southern after sweeping Queens. So they have won 3 out of their last 4 games. They lost in 7 on Wednesday to Georgia Southern, as I said. And now they got a 3-game set at Harmon Stadium starting tonight at 6:30 against Florida Gulf Coast. And I think UNF's had a really good year in baseball, 15-9 on the year. I believe they could take 2 out of 3 games from Florida Gulf Coast here. It would be nice if they sweep FGCU, but I don't know if that happens. FGCU the last couple of years has been really good in baseball, and I could see either UNF taking 2 out of 3, which that's the higher likelihood here is UNF taking 2 out of 3 from Florida Gulf Coast. If they can sweep, that would be nice. And we'll scroll back up so you can see the Ospreys record in baseball. Ospreys are, they're 15-10, 4-2 in conference. They have lost 1 game in a row. They're 10-7 at home, 5-3 on the road. And as I said, they play a 3-game home weekend series against Florida Gulf Coast this weekend. And I believe they can win 2 out of 3, maybe even sweep Florida Gulf Coast. Now, we are going to go look at the USF baseball schedule and look at their weekend series. Look at their weekend series at home against Tulane. So they got a 3-game home weekend series at home against Tulane starting tonight at 6:30. And I believe USF could take 2 out of 3 from Tulane. And we will look at their record in a minute, but they are coming off of a sweep. Actually, they're coming off of taking 2 out of 3 last weekend from UAB. They lost the first game 3-1, then they beat UAB 12-4. Then they beat UAB 9-7. So they're coming in winning 2 out of the last 3 games. So that means they're on a 2-game winning streak. I think there's a chance here they can sweep Tulane if they play really well. If they don't, they're either going to get swept, lose 2 out of 3, or in the rare case, take 2 out of 3 from Tulane. And USF's record in baseball currently sits at 13-9, 2-1 in conference, won 2 in a row, 8-7 at home, 5-2 on the road. Next, we are going to go to the NFL. And we are going to look at free agency signings in the AFC. We're doing the AFC today. So we're going to go to the AFC East first. And we start with the Buffalo Bills and re-signing Josh Allen to a 6-year deal worth $330 million with $250 million of that guaranteed. I'm going to say this. He resets the market for the QBs, and he is well worth that $330 million. He's one of the best young QBs in the NFL. I know there's going to be people that disagree with that, and they say, no, he's good in the regular season, but then when it comes to the playoffs, he chokes. I don't think it's that he chokes in the playoffs. He gets the unlucky card, and that is that every time he gets in the playoffs, he has to play Kansas City. And Kansas City has that fella named Patrick Mahomes. And I can see this year being the year that the Bills break through and they make the Super Bowl. Then they send Deontay Darrington Evans to a 1-year, $1.2 million deal worth $15,000 guaranteed. The special teamer, backup running back. Then they re-signed Ty Johnson to a 2-year, $5 million deal. Re-signed Reggie Gilliam to a 1-year deal worth about $2 million. My favorite signing for them here in the offseason has been Josh Palmer, 3-year, $36 million deal, 18 of that guaranteed. He is going to have I believe he's going to have a big role in this offense for the Bills. They do have Keon Coleman. They did re-sign a guy that I'm going to talk about here in a second, Khalil Shakir. But I like the signing of Josh Palmer because now it pushes, you can have Shakir and Palmer outside, or Keon Coleman and Khalil Shakir outside, and then put Palmer in the slot. But I think Palmer's going to get a lot more targets in Buffalo than he did in Los Angeles. Speaking of Khalil Shakir, he signed a 4-year extension worth up to $62.5 million. Includes $32 million guaranteed at signing. And that was reported by Ian Rappaport and Tom Pelissero. The Bills also signed offensive guard, Kendrick Green to a 1-year contract. It doesn't say how much the contract is worth, but that gives him depth on the offensive line. And then they signed Joey Bosa to a 1-year, $12.6 million deal worth $12 million guaranteed and a max value of $15.6 million. I figured Joey Bosa was going to sign somewhere. I thought it was going to be the Buccaneers maybe, or maybe somebody else. Then they signed Michael Hochik to a 3-year deal, contract worth up to $24 million. I can't say I know much about him, but I do know he's an edge rusher, so that gives him more depth along the edge for the Bills. They also signed Gregory Rousseau, an edge, to a 4-year contract that includes $54 million, $80 million extension that includes $54 million guaranteed at signing. I like that they're re-signing some of their core pieces and still bringing in new guys. Then they signed Larry Ogunjobi to a 1-year deal worth $8.3 million, $8 million guaranteed with incentives, deal worth up to $10 million. Re-signed linebacker, agreed to a 4-year extension with linebacker Terrell Bernard worth $50 million, includes $25.2 million guaranteed. Like I said, I like that the Bills are re-signing some of their bigger guys. Then you get they signed Dane Jackson to a 1-year deal, signed Derek Forrest to a 1-year deal, re-signed DeMar Hamlin to a 1-year, $2 million deal, and re-signed Reed Ferguson, long snapper, to a 4-year contract. Now we get to the Dolphins. Okay, so the most noticeable signing on here for me is Zach Wilson, a 1-year deal. Money, it doesn't say how much the contract is worth, but he's a nice insurance policy for Tua Tagovailoa if Tua gets hurt. If Tua's healthy the entire season, Zach Wilson's just going to sit and learn behind Tua. If Tua does get hurt, Zach Wilson is more than capable of starting games. Then you got, they say, in running back Dwayne Alexander Madison to a 1-year deal. Re-signed Dwayne Eskridge. It doesn't say how long. Signed Nick Westbrook-Akine to a 2-year, $6.5 million deal with $3.5 of that guaranteed. Signed Pharaoh Brown, a tight end. Re-signed offensive lineman Jackson Carman. Signed Larry Borum to a free agent deal. James Daniels signed a 3-year, $24 million deal with the Dolphins. Okay, so I see how they're kind of revamping their offensive line. They re-signed Liam Eichenberg, re-signed Benito Jones, signed KJ Britt to a 1-year deal. Tyrell Dotson re-signed to a 2-year deal. That's depth at linebacker. Signed Artie Burns to a 1-year deal. Okay. Itu Melifonwu signed a 1-year, $4 million deal with the Dolphins. It seems like to me that they're out here getting bargains, signing all these guys to 1-year deals to get depth along the defensive line and in the linebacker room. Melifonwu and Burns are probably not going to start. Elijah Campbell re-signed with the Dolphins. Ashton Davis signed a 1-year, $2 million deal that has a max value of $3 million with incentives. And then they signed punter Ryan Stonehouse. Now we get to the Patriots. And the Patriots, they do have some moves on here that I like. They did sign Josh Dobbs to a 2-year, $8 million deal with $3 million fully guaranteed, $3.5, almost $4 million guaranteed out of that $8 million to back up Drake May and probably, I'm not going to say take the job from Drake May, but teach him and mentor him. Signed Matt Collins to a 2-year, $8.5 million deal with a max value of $10.5 million. Okay. Getting some weapons for Drake May. Re-sign Austin Hooper to a 1-year deal, $5 million. $5 million deal, $4 million guaranteed. A max value of $7 million. I don't really understand this signing, but then again, that's why I'm not an NFL GM. Then they signed Morgan Moses to a 3-year deal, $24 million, worth up to $28.5 million. Signed guard Wes Schwartzel to a 1-year deal. Signed center Garrett Bradbury to a 1-year deal. Signed Caleb Chason to a 1-year, $5 million deal. Harold Landry signed a 3-year, $43.5 million deal worth with $26 million guaranteed max value of $48 million. They signed defensive lineman, Super Bowl champion Milton Williams to a 4-year, $104 million deal, $51 million fully guaranteed, includes $24 million signing bonus. I like this signing for the Patriots. They struggled last year rushing the getting pressure and sacking the quarterback. And I think Milton Williams is going to help them with that issue they had. Signed Kyrus Tunga to a 1-year deal worth $2.7 million. Signed Robert Spillane to a free agent deal. Signed Carlton Davis to a 3-year, $60 million deal. Signed safety Marcus Epps to a 1-year deal worth up to $4.5 million. Signed Jalen Hawkins. Re-signed to Jalen Hawkins. And just as of a couple days ago, they did sign Stephon Diggs to a 3-year deal. Now we get to the AFC East. My favorite signing in the offseason, and he's part of the thumbnail. Justin Fields signs a 2-year, $40 million deal with the Jets, worth $30 million guaranteed, includes $15 million signing bonus and $5 million base salary in 2025. I like this signing. It's basically a 1-year deal. It says 2 years, but there's a clause in the contract where Justin Fields, if he has a really good year, could opt out of the contract and go back to free agency if he has a really good year. Then they re-signed Kenny Nwangwu to a 1-year, $2.5 million deal. Signed Tyler Johnson, wide receiver. Signed Chukwuma Okafor, transaction wire. Signed offensive lineman Josh Myers to a 1-year deal. Signed Byron Cowart, a defensive lineman. Derek Nottie signed with the Jets. Jay Tufoli signed with the Jets, defensive lineman. So, to me, it seems like they're trying to beef up their defensive line. Then they signed a couple of linebackers they re-signed Jamin Davis, and they re-signed to a 3-year deal Jamian Sherwood. Signed cornerback Brandon Stevens to a 3-year, $36 million deal. Andre Sisco signed a 1-year deal worth up to $10 million. And Isaiah Oliver re-signed with the Jets. The AFC North. The Ravens signed a 2-year contract with Cooper Rush to be the backup to Lamar Jackson, worth up to $12.5 million. Signed wide receiver DeAndre Hopkins to a 1-year, $5 million contract with a max value of $6 million. Re-signed Tylan Wallace, re-signed Patrick Ricard, re-signed Ben Cleveland, and re-signed Ronnie Stanley. So not really much there. Bengals signed Samaje Perine, reacquired and signed Samaje Perine to a 2-year deal worth up to $3.5 million. Jamar Chase signed a 4-year, $161 million extension. T. Higgins re-signed 4 years, $115 million. Higgins had the non-exclusive franchise tag placed on him for the second straight year. Gesicki re-signed a 3-year contract worth up to $25.5 million. $12 million in year number 1. The Bengals re-signed Tanner Hudson. Signed Lucas Patrick to a 1-year deal. Re-signed Cody Ford to a 2-year contract. Re-signed Joseph Asai to a 1-year contract. Re-signed Cam Sample to a 1-year contract. Re-signed BJ Hill to a 3-year contract. Signed TJ Slayton, a defensive lineman, to a 2-year contract, $15 million, $15.1 million. Signed linebacker Orion Burks to a 2-year contract with $5 million. Re-signed Marco Wilson to a 1-year contract. And signed long snapper Kale Addo Midis to a 1-year contract. The Browns traded for Kenny Pickett, for Dorian Thompson-Robinson, and a 5th-round pick. Signed Cornelius Lucas, an offensive lineman, offensive tackle. Signed Tevin Jenkins, offensive tackle. Re-signed Myles Garrett to a 4-year contract extension, including $123 million guaranteed. Average per year salary, $40 million. The deal, which ties Garrett to the Browns for the next 6 seasons, includes a no-trade clause. Joe Tryon-Shoyinka signed a 1-year deal worth $4 million with $4.19 million guaranteed. Signed Malik Collins to a 2-year deal worth $20 million, $13 million fully guaranteed. Signed Jerome Baker and signed Devin Bush to a 1-year, $3.5 million deal, $2.5 guaranteed. Steelers. Oh boy, we need to have a talk, Steelers. You signed Mason Rudolph to a 2-year deal, $8 million. 4.5 of that's guaranteed. Russell Wilson's out there. Was out there. Aaron Rodgers is out there. Are you just going to go with Mason Rudolph and draft a QB? Signed Kenneth Gainwell to a 1-year deal. Acquired DK Metcalf from the Seahawks in exchange for a 2nd-round pick in this year's draft and a late-round pick swap. Metcalf is signing a 4-year, $132 million extension with the Steelers. Scotty Miller signs Scooter Miller. Scotty signs a 1-year deal with the Steelers. Ben Skowronek resigns with the Steelers. Donald Parham Jr. signs a 1-year deal with the Steelers. Daniel Ikeolo signs a 1-year deal with the Steelers. Isaiah Loudermilk re-signs with the Steelers for 1 year. Malik Harrison signs a 2-year contract worth $10 million with the Steelers. Brandon Eckel signs a 2-year contract with the Steelers. James Pierre re-signed with the Steelers. Darius Slay signed a 1-year contract, $10 million, and that's fully guaranteed. Juan Thornhill signs a 1-year deal with the Steelers. AFC South. Not much to see here with the Texans, other than trading away Christian Kirk, signing Justin Watson, signing Trent Brown to a 1-year contract. Cam Robinson signs a 1-year contract. Ed Ingram acquired from the Vikings in exchange for a 6th-round pick. Lincoln Tomlinson signs a 1-year contract, $4.5 million, 4.2. Max value of $5 million. Derek Barnett re-signed on a 1-year deal. Darrell Taylor signed a 1-year contract for $5.5 million, 5.2. Mario Edwards re-signs on a 2-year, $9.5 million deal. Sheldon Rankins signed a 1-year contract, max value of $7 million. Nick Neiman signed a 2-year deal worth $6.5 million. Ronald Darby signed a 1-year, $2.5 million deal. Okay, so it seems like the Texans are addition by subtraction. Derek Stingley, 3-year, $90 million extension that includes $89 million guaranteed. Tremont Smith signed a 2-year contract for $7 million. CJ Gardner-Johnson acquired along with a 6th-round pick. In exchange, the Eagles get Kenyon Green and a 5th round. So they're building up their secondary, are the Texans. And then they re-signed MJ Stewart. The Colts made the most head-scratching signing of the offseason. Daniel Jones on a 1-year, $14 million deal, 13.5 of that guaranteed. $6 million signing bonus. 7.15 million guaranteed. 7.15 million, 2025 base salary, and a max value of $17.5 million. I don't understand this signing for the Colts. They have Anthony Richardson. I know GM Chris Ballard wanted to get a guy in there that could compete with Anthony Richardson for the job. Then they signed a 1-year deal with Khalil Herbert, re-signed 2-year deal worth up to $8.5 million with Astor Doolin. Danny Pinter re-signed. Guard Neville Gallimore signed. Corey Ballantyne signed with the Colts. Charvarius Ward signed a 3-year contract worth up to $60 million with $35 guaranteed, including a $20 million signing bonus. And last but not least, they signed Cam Bynum to a 4-year contract worth $60 million. Jaguars signed quarterback Nick Mullins to a 2-year, $6.5 million deal. 3 of that guaranteed. De'Ami Brown signs a 1-year, $10 million deal. Has max value of $12 million. Hunter Long, 2-year contract worth $5 million. Max value is $6 million. Johnny Munt signs with the Jags. Juma Edoga signs with the Jags. Robert Hainsey signed a 3-year contract, $21 million, 13 of that guaranteed with the Jags. Fred Johnson, offensive guard, signs with the Jags. Patrick McCarry signs a free agent deal with the Jags. Cornerback Jordan Lewis signs a 3-year, $30 million deal with $20 million of that fully guaranteed. You know what? I like what the Jags have done this offseason. Seeing as they got Jordan Lewis, Eric Murray, both on 3-year contracts. We get to the Titans now. They signed Brandon Allen to a 1-year deal. Signed Van Jefferson to a 1-year deal with 2.5. A 1-year deal with Van Jefferson with a max value of $2.5 million. Dan Moore, offensive lineman, signed a 4-year contract, $82 million, $50 guaranteed, $30 million in year 1. That's a lot of money. Blake Hance, guard, signs with the Titans. Kevin Zeitler signs a 1-year contract with the Titans. Corey Levine re-signed with the Titans. Lorenzo Carter signs with the Titans. Draymond Jones, 1-year contract, $8.5 million, max value of $10 million, signs with the Titans. Sebastian Joseph Day re-signed a 1-year deal worth up to $7.5 million, 5 guaranteed with the Titans. Corey Barton signs a 1-year contract, 3-year deal, $21 million. Corey Barton signs a 3-year, $21 million contract with the Titans. Xavier Woods signs with the Titans. Morgan Cox re-signs with the Titans, long snapper. And Johnny Hecker signs a 1-year deal with the Titans. We get to the last of us in the AFC West. The Broncos, the only signing I see on here I really like from the Broncos is Evan Ingram. 2-year deal, $23 million, $16 million fully guaranteed. They did have a couple other signings, like Talanoa Hufanga signed a 3-year contract worth up to $45 million, 20 of that guaranteed at signing. Kansas City signed Gardner Minshew to a 1-year contract. Bailey Zappi re-signed on a 1-year deal with the Chiefs. Kareem Hunt re-signs on a 1-year, $1.5 million deal with incentives. Elijah Mitchell signs with the Chiefs for $2.5 million, 1.3 guaranteed. Marquise Hollywood Brown re-signed on a 1-year contract worth up to $11 million. Juju re-signed on a 1-year deal. Jalen Moore re-signed on a 2-year contract, $30 million. They franchise tagged Trey Smith guard, $23 million, $23.4 million is his contract for 2025. They still hope to get a long-term deal done with him. Re-signed Charles Omanahu to a 1-year deal worth up to $7 million. Signed Jerry Tillery to a 1-year deal. Nick Bolton re-signed on a 3-year, $45 million contract, $30 million fully guaranteed. Christian Fulton signed a 2-year, $20 million deal that has a max value of $20.5 million, $15 million fully guaranteed. The punt god, Matt Ariza, tendered by the team as an exclusive rights free agent. The tender is worth $960,000, and re-signed James Winchester to a 1-year contract worth $1.65. The Raiders traded for Geno Smith, quarterback Geno Smith, in exchange for a 3rd-round pick. I like this. And then they signing a 1-year contract for $2.1 million is Raheem Mostert. Alex Kappa signs a 2-year, $11 million contract. They re-signed Max Crosby to a 3-year extension worth $106.5 million, with $91.5 of that guaranteed. Malcolm Roach resigns. Malcolm Kuntz resigns. Adam Butler resigns. Malcolm Kuntz is for 1 year, 3 years for Adam Butler, $12 million for $12 million deal for Malcolm Kuntz, 16.5 with $11.5 million with $11 million guaranteed for Adam Butler. Landon Roberts signs a 1-year deal for $3 million with the Raiders. Eric Stokes signs with the Raiders for 1 year for $4 million. Jeremy Chin signs a 2-year deal worth more than $16 million. Isaiah Paulo Mayo signs a 2-year extension worth $8.5 million. Chargers re-signed quarterback Taylor Heineke to a 1-year deal. Signed Najee Harris to a 1-year deal with $5.25 million guaranteed, $3.5 million as signing bonus, $1.5 million base, and a max value of $9.25 million in incentives. Re-signed Jalen Reagor. Signed old friend Mike Williams to a 1-year, $6 million deal. Signed tight end Tyler Conklin to a 1-year deal. Re-signed center Bradley Bozeman to a multi-year contract. Signed Andre James. Signed Mekhi Becton to a 2-year contract worth $20 million. Signed Deshaun Hand to a 1-year deal worth $3.5 million. Re-signed Khalil Mack on a 1-year contract worth $18 million, fully guaranteed. Naquan Jones signed with the Chargers. Pierre Tart, 1-year contract, returning to the Chargers. Troy Dye returning on a 2-year contract worth $5.5 million. Has a max value of 8. Denzel Perriman resigns. Dante Jackson signs a 2-year contract worth $13 million with the Chargers. Elijah Molden signs a 3-year contract worth $18.75 million. Extension that includes $13.5 million guaranteed. Signed Benjamin St. Juste to a 1-year contract. J.K. Scott, punter, resigns on a 2-year, $6 million guaranteed. $6 million deal with $3.15 million guaranteed, fully guaranteed at signing. And that is it for that. And now we get to looking at the 2025 Rays schedule. That's not what I want. Spain baseball. Give me a second, ladies and gentlemen. I'm trying to pull up the one. We are having. Okay, so we're in. So I'm on the Rays schedule. So they obviously, they open the season today against the Rockies. And I think they're going to take 2 out of 3 here from the Rockies. And then you look at next Monday through Wednesday. They play a 3-game set against the Pirates. And yes, you will see Paul Skeens in that match, in that series. You'll see him in game 2 against Shane Baz. I think if the Rays can take 2 out of 3 there, they'll be off to a good start. And then they got a road trip to Texas. That's not going to be an easy road trip. And you already know the pitching matchups there. Littell against Molly, DeGrom against Taj Bradley, and Kumar Rocker against Drew Rasmussen. And then the Rays come home after that. If they could take 2 out of 3 from Texas, that would be perfect. And then they come home, they get the Angels and the Braves and the Red Sox and the Yankees. So a long homestand. If they can go take 2 out of 3 from the Braves and take 2 out of 3 from Boston and New York, because that's a 4-game. If they could take 3 out of 4 from the Yankees, 2 out of 3 from the Red Sox, and 2 out of 3 from the Braves, that's a really good homestand for the Rays. And that's so I'm going to say this. Let's go. So they sweep the Rockies, so they're 3-0 to start the year. Split, take 2 out of 3 from the Pirates. So now they're 5-1. Then they go to Texas. Take 2 out of 3 from Texas. 7-2. Come back home. Angels. Sweep them. 8, 9, 10. 10-1. 10-2. Then they take 2 out of 3 from the Braves. 12-3. Take 2 out of 3 from Boston, because that is a 3-game set. So that makes them 14-4. Then they take 3 out of 4 from the Yankees. 15, 16, 17. 17 and 6. 17 and 6 to start the year. That is not bad at all for the Rays. Then we'll go down a little further. They get Arizona and San Diego on the road. Can they sweep both of those series? Probably not. I think they could take maybe 2 out of 3 from San Diego. So that from the Diamondbacks. So that puts them at 19-9. No, 19-7. Then they go to San Diego. I think they get swept by San Diego. So that puts them at 19-10. And that's where they finish the first part. And then they come home and play Kansas City. We're going to leave off with Kansas City. They take 2 out of 3 from Kansas City. So that puts them at 21-11. They finish the month of April 21-11. Call me crazy. I think it's possible. Then you go to the Reds, and you're going to look at the Reds schedule. And yes, we do got a couple more things to talk about after we get done with this. So the Reds, obviously, we know they lost the first game in heartbreaking fashion to the Giants. So they got 2 more with the Giants and then 3 with the. I think the Reds can take the last 2 games from the Giants because it's Verlander and Robbie Ray, which Verlander's 35, 36 years old, and Robbie Ray's on the wrong side of 32. They got Nick Martinez, and they got Lodolo and Martinez going. I think they take those last 2 games. They go to 2-1. Then they welcome the Rangers for a 3-game set. You know who's going in game 1. It's Brady Singer against Kumar Rocker. I think the Reds can take possibly 2 out of 3 here. So if they do that, that puts them at, so they were 2-1, 3-1, 4-1, 4-2 going into that series against that 4-gamer against the Brewers. And I think they split with the Brewers. So they take the first 2 and then they lose the last 2. So they're 6-4. Going into playing the Giants April 7th. That next Monday, the 7th through the 9th, they play the Giants. And I think they could take 2 out of 3 from the Giants again. So that puts them at 8-5. They're 8-5 going into the Pittsburgh series. That's not going to be an easy series. It's a 3-gamer at home. I think they can take 2 out of 3 from the Pirates. So that puts them at 10-6. Then they get Seattle. I think they get swept by Seattle, so they're now 10-9. Then they go to Baltimore. They could sweep. They'll get swept by Baltimore. So that puts them over under 500, 2 games under. Then they go to Miami for a 3-game series. They sweep the Marlins. So they're back over 500 at 13-12. Then they have a 3-game set in Colorado. They sweep the Rockies. So that makes them 16-10. Then they get the rival Cardinals to wrap up the month of April. And it's a 4-game set. I think there's a sweep potential here. So you add 4 more wins. 17, 18, 19, 20. 20-10 to finish the first month of the season. I can absolutely see that for the Reds. And we're going to wrap up with my pick to click today for the MLB. And my pick to click for the MLB today is Josh Lowe for the Tampa Bay Rays at 410 today. And basically what I say by pick to click, that means he's either going to get, if he hits a home run, it's worth 2 points. Gets on base, it's worth 1. If he has a big game, it's worth double the amount of points. And if you haven't liked or subscribed to the channel yet, highly recommend it. Also, we do offer memberships here at the Sports Nation podcast. I would highly recommend getting a membership. Cheapest membership we have is 99 cents. The most expensive one and the one I highly recommend getting is the one that is $9.99 a month. We have another podcast on Tuesday night at 5:30. Please let me know down in the comment section below whether you like this, the reformed version of the Sports Nation podcast, where we cover multiple topics, whether it be college baseball, NFL, MLB, NHL. Please remember to turn on notifications. But that is going to do it for today's podcast episode. I will see everybody back here on Tuesday. And we might be set up in a different area compared to where we've been the last few weeks.